Hey everyone, Reflected here, and today I'd like to show you a little trick that can help you use your countermeasures more efficiently when flying the DCS F-16 Viper. Also, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Before you ask, I'm not going to start a Viper tutorial series. There are people who know way more about the Viper than I do, such as Wags, Bogey Dope, Carbon, or Tricker, and they already released a series of outstanding tutorials that I could never dream of matching. But in this past year, I've been studying the Viper, learning about all its systems, reading every book I could get my hands on, and also researching and building my upcoming Viper campaign and testing the missions. And there are some gray areas where I couldn't find any definite information, so I had to do my own research. One of these is Countermeasures. As you know, there are 6 customizable programs of countermeasures in the Viper. 1 to 4 can be initiated by moving the CMS stick forward on the stick. Which one will be used can be selected using this knob here. Program 5 can be initiated by slapping this button on the left side of the cockpit above the throttle. And Program 6 is initiated by moving the CMS switch left on the stick. Okay, great, but how do I set these up? What's the best setting? I was clueless. Also, there aren't a whole lot of bundles available, and all of these programs are spitting them out like there's no tomorrow, and I often found myself out of countermeasures and still within a SAM ring. My main problem was I wanted to bump out chaff or flare alone, because most of the time you know what kind of missile is pointed at you, and you don't want to waste something that is of no use against it. So I figured the lesser evil was radar-guided missiles. I get a launch warning tone, my raw flashes, I know when it's coming at me, and it's usually from a greater distance too, so I have time to lift my hand off the throttle and slap the panic button. So I set up a chaff-only program for number 5 and set the flares to 0. When it's an IR guided missile, there's no warning. I only have 1 or 2 seconds to react. No time to look for the panic button. So, I want to use the CMS switch on my stick to pump out flares. Therefore, I set up a flares only program for number 1. As for program number 6, I don't know. By default, it's set to single chaff and flare. I guess it's for flare checks, or to reveal your own position to friendlies. I don't know. But this is just my own thinking, the guy who has never flown a real Viper. Which brings me to the next question, the one I always ask. Is this realistic? What kind of settings do real Viper pilots use? We simulate everything in DCS in the most realistic way, especially in my campaigns, so I want to set up my CMS like they do in real life. This is where research comes into the picture. I don't know if you've read the book Viper Pilot by Dan Hampton. If not, please do. It's not only the best Viper book, but maybe the best aviation book I've ever read. It contains a few clues about the above question. Staring down at central Baghdad, I swallowed hard, counted 2 of my heavy, thumping heartbeats, and then smacked a bottle-top-sized button on the bulkhead above the throttle. As bundles of radar-deflecting chaff shot out behind the tail, I pulled straight down toward the city. Later, he says, I pulled hard on the stick while smacking the chaff button with the back of my left hand and began counting. And then, pumping chaff with my left fist, I keyed the mic and yanked the fighter upright, heading due north. As for the flares, he says, weaving the other way, I also thumbed out some flares. All these quotes seem to confirm my way of thinking. Program 5 is chaff only, and there is a flares only program for the CMS switch too. However, it may only be his personal preference, and I'd still like to know more. What is a realistic chaff and flare program? What is program 6 usually used for? If you know the answer to these, or you have some resources about the topic, please let me know in the comments below. Also, please recommend any books written by Viper pilots that I should read in order to learn more about how they operate in real life. I've also read Vipers in the Storm and loved it. It's full of details about USAF Viper ops. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Please subscribe for more updates about my upcoming Viper campaign. See ya!